All right, so I know a lot of you have probably seen a couple of these movies already. I'm getting to these late, like I said in my announcement video, but I still wanted to talk about these. The first one that I saw was Abigail. Um, now, when I take a step back and I think about the audience that goes to horror movies, I kind of see two groups. I see a group that likes concept, and I see an audience that likes substance. Um, the substantive horror movie, your psychological thrillers or your best ghost stories like The Shining, The Exorcist, or something more recent like Late Night with the Devil or Hereditary, these types of movies use suspense and writing and dialogue and to motivate the characters into morally gray positions or behaviors that they wouldn't normally exhibit, and the fear comes out of the performances, the direction, and the storytelling. The other group is your image-based conceptual horror films, your slashers, gashers, and mashers, right? Blumhouse loves to make uh, these types of movies, right? The Nun, Megan, The Purge. Um, while these types of movies are often simpler in their storytelling, this also contains some of the genre's best, right? It has Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th. These images live on and are, and, become part of the iconography, right? Become part of the culture. Um, Abigail is the latest movie from the filmmaking team known as Radio Silence. They're responsible for Scream 5, whatever we're calling that. Uh, Scream 6, VHS, Ready or Not. Um, and Abigail falls squarely into this concept category, right? Suffice to say, I'm an audience member of the other team. I I like the substantive. But, um, look, I wasn't a huge fan of Abigail. It shouldn't be a surprise if I'm kind of in the other team, generally speaking. Um, the concept is intriguing enough. It's a group of thieves steal a child of a wealthy businessman and hold her for ransom. If they had just stopped there in the trailer, this movie might have been a different experience. But unfortunately, as other reviewers have pointed out, to market movies these days, they must reveal everything to us. The young girl they steal is a vampire. It's not just any vampire, though. She's a ballerina vampire. And, snapshot, there's your image, right? There's your concept. A young girl in a tutu with fangs and blood. Um, let's rock and roll, right? The criminals, they're all trapped in this safe house holding her for ransom. They're led, I guess, by Melissa Barrera as she navigates the house while Abigail picks them off alien style one by one. In no specific order. I mean, the characters are unbelievable. The big reveal of this film is spoiled in the trailer, and therefore, as an audience, um, we just know it's coming. So I mean, it just kind of becomes a predictable show of events, and it's never actually as frightening as I think it wants to be, and it's not particularly taking itself very seriously either. Um, I mean, the cast does what they can with the characters, but I mean, they're really more caricatures that they're given to play. Um, my biggest gripe with this film, though, is the dialogue. Um, you know, as you may be familiar, uh, or you may not be. As an average viewer, you may not know this term, but I mean, the term expositional. Very simply put, expositional dialogue is when the characters spell out exactly what they're going to do, beat for beat. Kind of like this great scene in Airplane.
Tomorrow, why don't we drive up the coast to that little seafood place and... What's the matter?
My orders came through. My squadron ships out tomorrow. We're bombing the storage depots at Daiquiri at 1800 hours. We're coming in from the north, below their radar.
When will you be back?
I can't tell you that. It's classified.
Now, in real life, people don't actually talk like this, right? The characters in Abigail do, though. Almost exclusively. For 2 hours. It, for me, became unbearable. The competent cinematography, and I will give Alisha Weir does an incredible performance, especially for a child actress. But I did not find these things to be a redeeming enough factor for me. It's just, I just wasn't feeling this movie. And again, that could just be bias, right? Because it's not my type of horror film. I have seen that the audiences have mostly responded pretty positively to this. I think on IMDb, last time I checked, this had a 7.1. On Rotten Tomatoes, it was falling somewhere in the 60s. So, I mean, obviously you guys liked it. But, I'd love to hear your thoughts. For me, this just wasn't my type of film. Moving on. The next one I saw is another weird one. I did enjoy this one, but whoa. I'm only going to talk about this one briefly because I wanted to talk about the big movie that's coming out this weekend, which is Challengers. But, this next movie that I'm going to talk about is really it's just such a sleeper hit right now, and I hope more people do get the chance to see it. Not a lot of theaters are playing it, or they're playing it at weird times. I had to see this at a 10 o'clock showing because it was the only time AMC was playing it. And this movie that I'm hyping up right now is, of course, Sasquatch Sunset. This is directed by David and Nathan Zellner, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Keough. I really wouldn't have thought the most memorable and maybe the most raunchy film of 2024 was going to be a dialogue-absent meditation on the life and times of a Sasquatch family. But Sasquatch Sunset is, memorable. It is a year in the life in a Bigfoot family roaming the forests of North America. The movie is certainly one of a kind. It is both absurd and yet lands a kind of surprisingly grounded and sobering ending. Sasquatch will probably be hilarious to some, and it's going to be downright offensive to others. We see these humanoids in all sorts of real-life scenarios, from hunting to finding food, and more shocking moments like having sex with each other and hooting while they do it and giving birth in the woods, and how the human-ape hybrid half-breeds find joy in their free time. I can't say much about the performances except that they're believable. The creature design by Steve Newburn is outstanding. Lives among some of the best in cinema. It's right up there with the cantina scene in Star Wars in 2001's Apes. It's really, really good. Exceptional work on the makeup department there. Both Newburn and the makeup team that I'm sure was, they must have had a whole team for these four actors. It's really, it's a feat. It's really cool to see these practical effects being put to this type of use. It's very, very cool. And again, I can't stress enough, they look great. They're really believable costumes. Huge actors like Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Keough, who, by the way, they never speak in this movie, not once. Nobody talks in this movie ever. It's just grunts and groans. It's really funny. But these huge actors disappear completely into their beasts. So look, Sasquatch Sunset will be too weird, or even too much for most audience members, but I had a ball with it. I really did. It's really raunchy at points. But I mean, if you could find it playing near you, it's a great movie to see with friends, and probably a little weed. It's probably great with weed or drinks. So look, moving on to the main event here. The